Welcome back to Caminantes.
In this series of episodes, we will be speaking with artists who have been part of past CAMINOS festivals to talk about new work development and life after CAMINOS. This week, we talk to multi-disciplinary artist of Indo-Caribbean descent, Jiv Parasram. He's currently based on the unceded Coast Salish territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations, as well as the waterways of the Stolo people, also known as Vancouver.
He's a founding artistic producer of the one less fortunately titled Sociopolitical Collective Pandemic Theater and the artistic director of Rumble Theater. Recently, Jiv was nominated for the Governor General's Literary Award for Drama for his play Take the Milk, Nah. Let's get started. Thank you for being on our podcast. We're so excited for you to connect with us from the other side of this country. And our first question is, Caminos is a work in process festival. Do you have any helpful tips for someone who's just starting to develop a new piece? What is a helpful tip or approach you wish you remember during a development process of your own work?
Yeah. First, thank you for having me on your podcast. I think something that I started using and has been immensely helpful, and I wish I knew about it earlier, is just Excel. Which maybe it's because I'm a nerd, but I started using Excel documents as a way to just track what the questions were for me in each piece, and also all right, what's the thing I want to say, and just very simply put it out, I got to get this thing in, I got to get this thing in, I got to get this thing in. And then also questions other people ask you about it in development process. But just tracking them in a spreadsheet itself. And then, so that's one cell or one column. If people are visualizing a beautiful Excel spreadsheet in your mind.
Close your eyes.
Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, so that's one. That's one column. The second column is just kind of the notes to start expanding it. And then I have a scratch document, I call it, in just a Google Doc. And I expand out basically from there to just fill out the parts. And then that way I can track back the whole system of am I answering it, even if I start cutting them up and moving them around after that. Mm-hmm. But then it's just assembling it. So it's it just makes everything so much easier, and almost, I guess it might feel counterproductive to the artistic process, but I don't know. It's really helpful.
Yeah, that's amazing. And has it always been digital for you, or have you ever written it out?
My handwriting's really bad. Yeah. All my brother's handwriting, my older brother's handwriting, because they were in Trinidad for a little bit, and they made them it was, they were very diligent. Man, if you see my parents too, but now I was raised here and thus have the writing of a child, and they were yeah, okay, that's fine. Whatever, it's computers now.
Give them a computer. Yeah. Fine. That's important. Tracking your actual messy artistic process and putting it in charts. That's very pro.
Yeah. And learning Excel in the process, it's amazing for other job opportunities. So that's a great tool.
It's a real good one.
Yeah.
What does developing a new piece look like for you, Jiv? I'm seeing now that there is a digital charting part of it, but basically what is essential to your development process? Is there some things that are non-negotiable when you're starting a new project?
I mean, I wish I could say that there was anything that was non-negotiable, but I feel it's just the way that I can make stuff. It's often off the side of my desk, or it's just trying to find some time here, or starting very underfunded. I guess going from that point of initial creation, right? So it's all pretty malleable. I can negotiate pretty much anything to fit into okay, how much time can we carve out for it? That said, though, it is just having time to think and reflect. Usually what I like to do is just read a lot of an idea I'm interested in, and then try to think of ways to I don't know, just as simply as possible communicate it, simply and entertaining, right? But to a group of people. So that the best thing, it's negotiable, but the best thing is when I can do that I've got some time to like go walk around, think about it, make some of these notes, chart out some maps of it, go back in and have a couple people who are collaborating with me. Like the collaborator thing, it's just so much better for me. Like I can do stuff on my own, but it's not as good or fun for me. And then that accountability to like go like, okay, here's the thing, and then get initial feedback, like just complete takes on it and go like, great, I can take that, I can work with it, and just keep honing its stuff down that way. Like if I can make that happen, that's the ideal process. But in lieu of it, just even the time to like saturate in the idea, and then when I sit down to write it or however, it's more of a free flow. So
yeah. Okay. I love how reading is a big part of that, because you're like ingesting other people's art to like spill out your own. Mm-hmm. Is there a book you're reading right now that you're into?
Okay, so weirdly, I'm not a big fan of reading, like especially like artistic material. Like a script, I'll read a script, obviously. Like
Right.
I kind of like that part, but like I have a hard time with novels. I find them like, more where people are like using the form.
Yeah.
I think they're great, and I love to read excerpts of it and stuff, but not a big reader of that stuff. So I read a lot of like bizarre theories, not like conspiracy theories, but like I read this book that was about Isabel Wilkerson had a book that was about caste and applying caste to kind of a North American context of really like where you enter into an existing caste system and how it can be applied to race, which it's makes a lot of sense to me. I've got this book over on my desk that I've been working from for a while. It's called the Ramlila Sandigrandi, and it's like just like more of it's this thing that was put together by like this community group, really, the committee that organizes this giant outdoor like multi-day alila, so like a 12-day telling of the Ramayana, and then they burn. It's basically the origins of Burning Man, I assume, because they just burned this massive effigy and like, but it's got like, well, it doesn't have like the script in it. It's got a lot of the how they organized around it, and like kind of these cool notes about like the structure of the thing rather than. And like, so it's a roadmap kind of to like creating it. So stuff like that, I like to just like geek out on and yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. You're really painting a vivid picture for me. It's not about fiction. It's about like nonfiction.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, but I'm interested in fiction. Like actually, like if it's a short story type thing, like I'm into that. Like I think fiction's more important right now, to be honest. I guess they're more like tools that I can apply, frames I can apply to try to get stuff out. And I feel like that's what I'm trying to do whenever I make something, is like, here's a way of looking at something, and that's all I can offer. And otherwise, here's my snake oil. Give me your money, please, if you like.
Yes.
Going back to talking about work in process presentations, what is the impact of work in process presentation for new work, like festivals like Caminos or other?
I think it's super vital. In any case, I think like showing stuff to an audience like not fully developed is great. It if anything, it gives you the opportunity to be like, oh, is what's landing, what's not landing, what's working, what's fun for me, what's not fun for me, what's fun for them, and also seeing how much it holds up depending on how it's all presented. Like, I think doing like a very dedicated work in progress showing like is pretty cool. But like what you get at like development festivals like Caminos is multiple things happening that are adapting to basically the stages. Like the stages are set up to support a lot of variety of stuff happening. So you're never going to get like the full realized aesthetic by design, and that's great. So you can only do the essentials of it, like only like this is because I don't have the full control of the theater. I'm fitting into what is around me, and so you test that material in someone else's design of a vibe, and that's amazing. And you're doing it kind of like with other people at the same time, so you're part of this night. Yeah, I love that stuff. I think it's the best way to develop stuff for sure.
Well, you were at Caminos in 2017 with 20 minutes of Take de Milk Na. And it's gone all over the country now. It's been turned into plays and podcasts, and it's been performed in Toronto and Vancouver, and it's a published play, which is very cool. So that's a lot of kind of reinterpretations of like this idea, a lot of reinterpretations. Yeah. And our question is what is the process of adaptation for you, especially when it comes to taking like a live show and making it into a podcast and then also a text? Like, they're so different.
I mean, it's again, like it's just adapting to the form as best as I can through the logic of it. So that show, I think, was built in a way that it's relies on a live audience, which I guess, you obviously could say about like most or all live performance, right? So there's nothing like, oh, cool. No, it needs to be in a theater because it's a thing. Yeah. There's some like audience interaction stuff that's just like, that's not going to work in the same way. Apparently, I've talked to people who've heard like the podcast version and they're like, oh, actually, this is how it worked for me. So it wasn't like the most thought out thing. We didn't have that much time. This was also early pandemic. I think it was like I had just flown back to Vancouver and it was recording like just in my room before, like just like, oh, we have a USB mic, thank God. Like there's something, but like back when you couldn't even order anything, like if it was like, oh, we're gonna record this thing, it's like, well, maybe I should try to like but like Amazon didn't work or like at that point. I mean, they're evil anyway, so that's probably for the best. But yeah, so the adaptation thing, just being quick and just being like real with it. Like it's like there's parts in the podcast where it's like, hey guys, this is a podcast. And that what works well in that show is that it's like, that's the format. It's just me kind of being like, what's up? Here's some things, I think. So it's so just addressing like how limited the form is at times and acknowledging that it's kind of funny that way. But then also figuring out how to structure it, like a podcast thing, because it's episodic usually, like that's a little bit difficult in figuring out like, well, okay, how can we break this up in a way that is logical, and had some control over that in the way that's broken up. And Play Me was super supportive about it, which was good. And we were like quite invested. Yeah. And similarly, like in print too, like there's basically the thing that people remember and talk about from Take the Milk mainly is there's a part where the audience is separated. And so you have to self-identify and then separate. So how to even do that in print was kind of just to adapt to like page flipping so that there's time to like make the decision for yourself. And so, yeah, just rolling with it, I guess. They're all approximations, I guess, is the thing.
Like a running theme in this series has been some artists talking about perfectionism and how that like really just doesn't serve them, and at a certain point you just have to like, it is an approximation, we're just gonna say we're done now. yeah that's about as far as it goes. Like I think everything is like constantly in process. Like I was listening to the one where Rosa was talking about that too, like everything is constantly in process. So why try to pretty it up, I guess? I don't know. I'm pretty chill with that stuff. I don't have much towards the like preciousness of the art form. Take notes, everybody.
Yeah. I have a question about like, what was the journey from the presentation at Caminos to a full-length presentation? And I know that's like a broad question, but it can be like, what was your journey?
Well, it's, so by the time it had gone to Caminos, it had started at a storytelling night that Graham, who's one of the co-creators with me, had organized, and it wasn't really going to be a show at that point. After that, then Be Current had a Rock Paper Sisters festival. So again, these development festivals, right? It basically did a development festival circuit. Rock Paper Sisters Festival, Caminos, and then the Monsoon Festival in Surrey. And it was kind of was able to like add 5 minutes here, add like another 5 minutes there, and then back into development to try to expand it out to a production. But all of it was basically just that cow story that's at the top of it. So it's kind of like the first half of the play, which is and then in the structure of the play is to kind of then use it as a fake out and go into some other stuff. All that stuff was from us trying to expand out the story of the cow thing and just being like, I hate this. This is just sentimental identity play bullshit. Like, it's fucking stupid. And again, having a collaborator around, like Tom was in the room at that point, when we were at TPM, and I was just banging my head on the ground, like literally banging my head on the backspace floor, just being like, this is fucking like, I have no problem with the story. I'm glad people like it, but like, it's not a play. There's no political challenge. There's nothing going on. It's nice, but like, fuck it. Like the play is about nothing. And then Tom was like, oh, okay, cool. What about, I like that though. The play's about nothing. Let's kind of go into it. And then it was like, and then we kind of made the rest of it. Like we got kind of far, like in the rest of that workshop. We kind of got to the point where it was like, I don't know, man, I'll start saying my name a lot, which is part is just me saying my own name. And I guess like figuring out the clown turn of it or whatever that part is. And then the whole other parts to put in, I basically just turned out in like on a streetcar, like 2 or 3 weeks later in note form, but like basically like had it just, again, it kind of flowed out and it was like, let's fucking try this, man. I don't know.
I love those stories. Just like the weirdest corners, things just come out. Yeah, I think this is a great time to ask a question from our previous guest. So the guest we just spoke to in the last episode is Ahmed Moneka, who's like an actor, musician here in Toronto from Iraq. And he had this question for you. What do you think about the shift we're witnessing in our lifetime from in-person to digital performance? And what is your response to that as an artist?
It's a good question. I mean, I've thought about it a lot. And with Rumble, we've been like actively like still doing stuff the whole time. So I've gotten a chance to do some different mediums, I guess you could say, between that and a couple other gigs. I will say on a certain level, I fucking hate it. I think it sucks. But on the other level, like the more the interconnectedness, like the ability to have these like more international or national, regional, whatever conversations that we can have more people actually participate in, like and people who couldn't necessarily go to theater before, like that's good. That's great. Like I think that the accessibility of stuff, and I think us like rolling it with the form of like, it might not be perfect, but we're trying this and evolving it. That's exciting to me. But honestly, like as an approximation, I suppose it's not a good one. It's awful. It's awful for me.
It's good to be honest, Jiv.
Yeah.
Do you have a question for our next guest, who could be an artist anywhere across the Americas, just to keep this combo going?
Yeah. Okay. So I was thinking about this, and so I'm curious about how you define your community around you, community or circles or audience or however you view it. What is the definition for you there? And what is your accountability to them in that relationship? Like what do you give them? What do you get back? How's that work for you?
That's a really good question. Can't wait to ask it. If you want to know the answer, please listen to our next episode. Do you have a memory that you cherish from your time at the Caminos Festival that you want to share with us?
Yeah. I mean, like, I guess the memory is more like, it's less about a specific like incident or anything, but it's just like the vibe, right? Like, it's the fact that it's a party. It's like, oh, come to this artistic development festival. Yeah, you'll see these works in progress. But it's like a fucking party. Yeah. That like you would want to have to line up to get tickets to it. Like, if anything, like even if you didn't like the performance, like it's like the after party kicks ass too. and that kind of gathering, that kind of like makes it people where it's like, hey, also the people who came to your show weren't just coming to experience a deep artistic thing that you have spent like, the past 2-3 weeks, like delving into. It's like, they're also there to party and have a good time. So it's just a wicked vibe. And that's like, for me, like when I think about Caminos at all, it goes back to that. It's like, this is wicked. These people are in the audience and then we're all going to party with each other later. So it's kind of equalized in a little bit. It's fun.
I miss that too, and it's been really fun to just do this podcast and connect with people one-on-one and like have a little tiny, just like meaningful moment with people.
This has been significant. Like, this has been fantastic. Like, I was listening to a bunch of them, and just like the way that's like people are like putting them in conversation with each other and stuff. It's like, great. This is this is the kind of stuff like that I'm excited about with people doing podcasts and like some less than like digital plays and stuff. This kind of conversation, because like all I do is just walk around and listen to podcasts. Like that's my only luxury.
We are speaking to you from the shores of this beautiful Zaga Igan, known to some as Lake Ontario, in Toronto, or Dagarondo. This is the ancestral territory of the Haudenosaunee or Longhouse Confederacy, the Anishinaabe Nation, the Wendat, and the Mississaugas of the Credit. This land is covered by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum and Treaty 13, also known as the Toronto Purchase.
At Aluna, we remember that people can begin to heal when they are hurt. We are committed to artful participation in disagreements. We are committed to unsettling ourselves towards connection, respect, and justice for all people who now live in this city, which has been a meeting place since time immemorial.
Radio Aluna Teatro is produced by Aluna Theatre with support from the Toronto Arts Council, the Ontario Arts Council, the Canada Council for the Arts, the Department of Canadian Heritage, and TD Bank.
Aluna Theatre is Beatriz Pisano and Trevor Shelness with Sue Ballin. Radio Aluna Theatre is produced by Mónica Garrido and Camila Diaz Varela. For more about Aluna Theatre, visit us at alunatheatre.ca, follow at Aluna Theatre on Twitter or Instagram, or like us on Facebook.
Miigwech and Nyawangoa.